3, 2, go.
Hey, it's your girl Cass, and you're right here on Real Talk, Real Life, bringing you motivation and inspiration to get you over the hump. Thanks for coming back, travelers. We're so excited. I have Jerry Franklin Poe. What's up, Jerry? How are you?
Hey, Cassandra. How are you doing? Glad to be here.
Good. I'm so glad that you're with us. This is a good friend of mine. We've known each other for several years, and so I've watched Jerry grow, and he's become this excellent motivational speaker, trainer.
Yep.
I mean, hey, Jerry, I knew you back in the Delaware, working at Delaware U.
Yep.
Way
you knew me
before.
when I had a job.
right. When you had a 9 to 5, you was clicking.
Yeah, like that was like 5 years ago.
Yeah. And then since then, Jerry has now, since he was at Delaware U punching the clock, he has, since then, you've assisted over 20,000 people find victory in your life.
Yep. I've trained now independently for the last 5 years. I've traveled all over North America, United States, Canada, Puerto Rico. I've done over 500 seminars in 43 different states in the U.S. I've spoken to over 20,000 people all over. Last week, I had I think around 300 people in my class.
And you've done over 500 seminars.
Yes, ma'am.
Jerry, you big time now.
I'm just doing a little bit. I mean, there are people doing, more than me, but I'm doing more than most, I should say.
And that's our whole goal, is to get those who aren't doing what they need to be doing, get them on that victorious path.
That's what it's all about. It's really about taking your passion, your purpose. God put something in all of us. And most of us are playing small. We're not doing what God has called us to do. And when I was at the University of Delaware working, doing my thing, the whole entire time I was there, keep this in mind, I wasn't just punching the clock. I was still developing skills outside of my job that could prepare me for what I'm doing now. I just didn't have the direction to put those skills into place. While I was there, I went to see a movie, Coach Carter. I'm sure everyone's seen that movie at least once or twice. If you haven't, go out and see it. And in the movie, he asked his students, what is your greatest fear? And there was a quote in there from Marianne Williamson about our greatest fear is not that we're inadequate, but that we're mighty beyond measure. And after I watched that movie, it was really God speaking to me, telling me that by staying in my job, I was playing small. I was playing it safe. So the fear that I had of being out there in the marketplace on my own, the fear I had of being in front of people, speaking and training and sharing all these things I had learned, that fear was really blocking myself from reaching my full potential, and also it was hindering others from reaching theirs, because the message that I had to share could not get out unless I took that first step. So that's when I decided to walk away from my job completely, and that was in 2004, and ever since then everything just fell into place.
Why do you think people play it safe?
Why they play it safe? All about their belief. Their belief system, their faith level. That's why people are playing it safe. See, most people, they say a lot out of their mind, out of their mouth, but what's going on in their head doesn't match what they say. If you look at it from, excuse me, just from a Christian perspective, we have a lot of people who call themselves believers, but their actions don't show they believe. So you talk about, okay, you're called to do this, you're called to do that. Well, if your actions don't match up with what you're saying, then you're not living by faith. You're not really living what you believe. Well, you are, though. You are living what you believe, because your actions show you what you really believe.
It's your fruit.
Yes. The Bible said you always tell them by their fruit, right? So you have people who are living based off of fear rather than faith, even though they say they have faith. For me, what it was just okay accepting the fear. See, fear is okay, but it's what you let the fear do to you that makes the difference. And in Revelations, it talks about the fearful, which is people who allow fear to control them, will have their part in the lake that burns with fire and brimstone, just like everybody else. So for those who are out there letting fear control their actions, they're not, in a position that they really want to be.
But what's really amazing is that some people don't even know that they're living in fear. But you can look at an individual and see that they're living within a small little comfort zone, a small little box. And the reason why they don't step out of their box is because they're living in fear. A fear if I don't make it, or fear of what if I do, how about what if you do make it, Right. So it's so many people, but how do you get people to identify that they're living in fear?
Well, it's all based on what you want to accomplish. At some point in time, you have to have a reality check. Or, you have to look at yourself and say, am I really where I want to be? We keep lying to ourselves. We keep lying, saying it's okay for me to live like this, it's okay for me to have this. When I was at my job, everything was cool. I didn't like the job. I didn't like where I was, but I kept going every single day. God will put you in a position where if you stay where you are, you're a punk. I had my last evaluation with my supervisor and my department head, and they just said the wrong stuff to me. And in that moment, the stuff that they were saying to me and the evaluation they were giving me, I didn't think it was justified. So as long as I stay there and accept it, then it's not God is doing it. I'm doing it to myself. So I said I didn't want to have a job. I said I didn't want to be in this position. I said I didn't want to be on the 9 to 5 or on the job system. I said all that stuff, but I was still showing up. And then that point came, which is like, okay, this is a critical point. He's going to push you to the point where you have to make a decision. Either you're going to stay here, and if you stay there, then you just accept it the way it is. And you can't blame anybody else except for yourself, or you're going to make a change. See, in life, there's only 2 decisions that you make. Regardless of what happens to you, you either work to change stuff or you work to accept it. And most people are just accepting what's happening to them. See, if you believe that you were born again, right? If you believe all that, and even if you don't believe, if you just believe that you're human, in Genesis it talks about that we were born in the image and likeness of a Creator. So if you're born in the image of something, that means you have that thing inside of you.
Right.
So whatever you're experiencing, you're creating it. But most people don't want to acknowledge or take responsibility for what they have in their life.
Right.
They don't want to take responsibility for the fact they created their situation, they created their circumstances. So you have people operating from 2 different positions. One person's operating from a place of responsibility. Another person's operating from a place of accident. So everything just happens to me by accident. It was somebody else's fault. It's the government's fault. It's the man's fault. Somebody's keeping me down. Somebody, the school, my teacher, whatever. Now, when you're in that position, how much control do you have over your situation? You don't have any control, and then when you don't have control of your situation, you feel powerless. Those feelings of powerless, now you have to justify them, so you create excuses for this powerless feeling. And that's just a cycle that people go through over and over and over and over again, and it gets programmed. It gets programmed into you from the day you're born. So if you grew up in an environment where people weren't taking responsibility for their lives, then that's all that you learn. See, when you read in Romans, that says we have to not conform to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of our minds.
Right.
So when you accept Christ, your spirit is renewed, but your mind is not renewed.
And
so
that's a process.
Correct. It's a process now. So the challenge would be, how many of us know the process? How many of us put ourselves in the process? And how many of us are successful with the process?
So what you did was come up with Victorology, which is a way to be able to identify the process.
Correct.
Right.
Victorology was something that I created, I think now it's probably 3 years ago. And I was on the way, I was in the airport, Philadelphia airport. And I was coming to park my car in a long-term parking lot. I was walking to the airport, and it just dawned on me that people don't study victory, or they don't study they don't study how to win in life. A lot of people don't. They want to, but they don't put a lot of energy into learning how. You know, when I was a child, my father always taught me that if you want to have something that somebody else has already, all you have to do is find out what they did to get it, and you'll be able to do that. If you can do that same thing that they did, you can get the same results. You don't have to figure this thing out on your own, because people have already figured it out.